In the rugged heart of medieval Albania, a clash of empires was about to unfold. The year is 1457. The unstoppable Ottoman war machine, one of the most feared powers of the age, is carving its way through the Balkans, swallowing kingdoms and crushing any who dare to resist. For decades, their expansion seemed inevitable, a tide of conquest that threatened the very foundations of Christian Europe. But in the remote mountains of Albania, one man stood as a bastion against this tide. His name was Giorgio Castriota, better known as Skanderbeg. Once a hostage in the Ottoman court, he had risen through their ranks, learning their strategies and tactics from within. But his heart remained with his homeland. When the time was right, he returned to Albania, raised the banner of rebellion, and forged a legacy as the Dragon of Albania. For years, Skanderbeg had defied the might of the Sultan, becoming a legend in his own time. He was a master of the terrain, a ghost in the mountains who struck with lightning speed and vanished without a trace. His guerrilla tactics had bled the Ottomans, turning the Albanian highlands into a graveyard for their armies. But in the summer of 1457, Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, had had enough. He dispatched a massive force with a single, brutal objective: to hunt down Skanderbeg and extinguish the Albanian resistance once and for all. This was not just another campaign, it was a mission of annihilation. Leading this punitive expedition was Ishak Beg Evrenosoglu, a veteran commander familiar with Albania and a personal rival of Skanderbeg. Accompanying him was Hamza Castrioti, Skanderbeg's own nephew, who had defected to the Ottomans, bringing with him intimate knowledge of his uncle's methods. The Ottoman army was a formidable host, numbering somewhere between 40 and 80,000 soldiers. Confident that their sheer numbers would finally overwhelm the elusive Albanian warlord. As the Ottoman army marched into Albania, they found nothing but scorched earth and empty villages. Skanderbeg, facing an enemy that outnumbered him at least 5-1, refused to engage in a pitched battle. He knew that would be suicide. Instead, he and his 8,000 warriors melted into the mountains, watching, waiting, and drawing the invaders deeper into his domain. For 2 long months, the Ottomans chased shadows. They grew frustrated, their supplies dwindled, and their morale began to crack under the strain of the relentless, unseen enemy. Convinced that Skanderbeg had fled to the coast, the Ottoman commanders allowed their discipline to slip. They split their forces and set up a sprawling camp in the plain of Albulena, a valley surrounded by wooded hills. They believed the campaign was all but over. They were fatally mistaken. Skanderbeg had not fled. He had been orchestrating a grand deception, luring the overconfident army into the perfect trap. The valley of Albulena, with its open plains and encircling hills, was the killing ground he had chosen. From his vantage point in the mountains, he watched the Ottoman camp, studying their routines, their patrols, and their vulnerabilities. He knew his moment had come. On the morning of September 2nd, 1457, under the cover of a dense pre-dawn fog, the Albanian army descended from the hills like silent specters. Skanderbeg divided his small force into 3 groups, preparing to strike the unsuspecting camp from multiple directions simultaneously. The air was thick with tension as his warriors moved into position, their hearts pounding in their chests. They were outnumbered, but they held the ultimate advantages: surprise, strategy, and the unyielding will to defend their homeland. As the sun began to rise, the signal was given. With a terrifying war cry that echoed through the valley, the Albanians charged. The attack was sudden, brutal, and utterly devastating. The Ottoman soldiers, many still asleep or unprepared for battle, were thrown into complete chaos. Skanderbeg's men crashed into their lines, their swords and axes reaping a terrible harvest. The disciplined charge tore through the disorganized camp, creating a whirlwind of panic and confusion. Psychological warfare played a crucial role. Skanderbeg had ordered his men to create as much noise as possible, banging their swords on their shields, and shouting to create the illusion of a much larger army. The Ottomans, disoriented and terrified, believed they were being swarmed from all sides by an overwhelming force. The camp became a slaughterhouse. Tents were trampled, and soldiers were cut down before they could even grab their weapons. The Ottoman command structure collapsed almost instantly. Ishak Beg Evrenosoglu fought to rally his men, but his efforts were futile against the tide of panic. Hamza Castrioti, Skanderbeg's traitorous nephew, was captured in the chaos. The sight of their commander being taken prisoner shattered the last vestiges of Ottoman morale. What began as a battle quickly turned into a rout. The Ottoman soldiers broke and fled, desperate to escape the Valley of Death. But there was no escape. Skanderbeg's forces pursued them relentlessly, cutting down thousands as they tried to flee. The hills that had hidden the Albanians now became barriers, trapping the fleeing Ottomans. By midday, the battle was over. The plain of Albulena was littered with the bodies of Ottoman soldiers. The scale of the victory was staggering. An army of just 8,000 men had completely annihilated a force 5 times its size. Contemporary accounts claim that up to 30,000 Ottomans were killed or captured, while Albanian losses were minimal. The entire Ottoman camp, with all its supplies, treasure, and war banners, fell into Skanderbeg's hands. It was one of the most decisive and lopsided victories in military history. News of the Battle of Albulena sent shockwaves across Europe. In a continent living in fear of Ottoman expansion, this victory was a beacon of hope. Pope Calixtus III hailed Skanderbeg as the champion of Christ, a defender of the faith who had proven that the mighty Ottomans were not invincible. The victory solidified Skanderbeg's legendary status and bolstered the Albanian resistance, ensuring its survival for another decade. It was a powerful message to other European nations that a united and strategic defense could hold back the Ottoman tide. But what made this impossible victory possible? It was a perfect storm of factors. First, Skanderbeg's military genius. His mastery of guerrilla warfare, his brilliant use of deception, and his ability to exploit his enemy's arrogance were unparalleled. He turned his numerical disadvantage into a strategic advantage by refusing to fight on his enemy's terms. Second, knowledge of the terrain. The Albanian mountains were his fortress and his weapon. He knew every pass, every forest, and every valley, allowing him to choose the perfect battlefield where he could neutralize the Ottoman numbers. Third, the discipline and courage of the Albanian warriors. They fought with a fierce determination, united by their loyalty to their leader and their love for their land. Their morale was unbreakable. And finally, the overconfidence and tactical errors of the Ottoman commanders. Their arrogance led them to underestimate their opponent, neglect basic security, and fall headfirst into a perfectly laid trap. The Battle of Albulena stands as a timeless lesson in military strategy. It demonstrates that courage, intelligence, and a deep understanding of one's strengths and weaknesses can overcome even the most overwhelming odds. It is more than just a battle. It is a symbol of resistance, a testament to the power of a small nation standing against a giant, and a story of how 8,000 men led by a tactical genius changed the course of history. Thank you for joining us on this journey back to the heart of medieval warfare. If you found this story as captivating as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more sagas from the annals of battle. Join us next time as we explore another forgotten conflict that shaped our world.